Hello, nerds. Kelly Renee Miller here, and it is Theater Thursday today on the Nerdbyte. And in honor of Edgar Allan Poe's birthday this week, I am actually going to do a dramatic reading, mostly from memory, because this is a life goal of mine, of my favorite poem, The Raven. It's a very insightful gift I got from my friend Nick. Miss him. Yeah, I love you guys, and I love my blog. I'm an actor, so I'm gonna act. It's a long poem, so strap in. My favorite. The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, as I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this and nothing more. Distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here, forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door." Some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more. Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir, said I, or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is, I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you." Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this and nothing more. Back into my chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping something louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely there is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady perched above my chamber door. Perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. Perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore, "Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou," I said, "art sure no craven, ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For one cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on that placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if its soul in that one word did outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, "Other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before." Then the bird said, "Nevermore." Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, "Doubtless," said I, "what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hopes one melancholy burden bore, of nevermore." But the raven, still beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking, "Nevermore." This I sat, engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining, on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, and whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er, she shall press, nevermore. Then, methought, the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. "Wretch!" I cried, "thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." "Prophet!" said I, "thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore. Desolate, yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." "Prophet!" said I, "thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aidenn it shall grasp a sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore?" Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." "Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend!" I shrieked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul, from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor, shall be lifted nevermore. Thanks, nerds. If you're interested in a little bit of history of Edgar Allan Poe, because it was his birthday, he was the first, kind of, if you want the original emo writer. He was the first writer to write stories of this kind for weekly publication. He first wrote in a magazine, and he was also one of very few authors to profit from his writing at this time in the 1800s during his lifetime. So he actually did live and work, and as a writer, he was obviously depressed. There was a lot of substance abuse, and the name Lenore that appeared in The Raven appears over several of his writings, and we don't know for sure because there just isn't any real documentation of that when last I looked, which was a while ago. But Lenore absolutely was a lost love of his, and it didn't end well. I think, if I recall, she was kind of like, "Bitch, you crazy," and left. He suffered from depression as well, and I think I read that he may even have had night terrors. But what's interesting is he is another writer that a lot of his works are based in Europe, but unlike most of the works that are based in Europe, he is American. He is from the Boston area. So let me see if there's anything good here. Gosh, he's got a lot. He was very prolific. Self-destructive, melancholic, and usually dressed in black, Edgar Allan Poe, 1809 to 1849, that's right, died really young, was the rock star of American literature in the 1830s and 40s. While most writers of his time strove for the appearance of middle-class respectability, Poe was touched by scandal from his earliest days until his death, the circumstances of which remain unresolved. So he did lead a very tumultuous lifestyle. This particular edition, if you're interested in reading it, is a Barnes & Noble edition. This is the compilation 2006, and the introduction that I just read part of was Don B. Sova. I'll find it on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com, and I'll link to that in the description. If you hung on this long, thanks. Love that. Close. The whole thing before I die. Small goals are still goals. Alright, nerds, keep it geeky. I'll see you tomorrow for Fangirl Friday. Bye.